What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers. We are going to be breaking down UFC Vegas 65. And don't worry, Uncle Weezy will be here very shortly. He had to restart his computer. It's going to take probably 5 to 10 minutes. So do want to do a recap of last night because last night's card was just phenomenal. So that's going to take a little bit. But Weezy will indeed be here. Would not be the same without him. But yeah, here for UFC Vegas 65, I believe it's a 13-fight card. And I know it's always tough going from a stacked pay-per-view card like the one we had last night to a card like this where we have to break down Natalia Silva versus Bleda. But it should be a good card. A couple of violent spots sticking out, so definitely looking forward to that. Before we get started, guys, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. It is always appreciated. Do want to shout out the chat before we get into this recap. Hopefully, you guys all did well last night. We got Mushroom, first one in the chat. We got Bob in the chat. We got Victor. We got Justin, becoming a new member as well. Shout out to Justin for that. We got Kiwi in the chat. We got Rob in the chat. We got Prison, Mike, Sean in the chat as well. See what else we got here. We got Stinto Beats. We got Prince of Mischief in the chat as well. We got Rob, we got Justin. Appreciate all you guys hanging out here on a Sunday. Angelo. All right. So, yeah, last night was crazy. It was a crazy card, and I'll kind of talk about how my night went. And it was one of the better nights of the year for me. So, believe it or not, I started off the night 0 for 4. I was like, what's going on? It's going to be one of these nights? It's going to be a terrible night. I can't get anything right. I can't hit a bet. I didn't hit a bet until like I think it was the 7th fight of the night. That was the first fight I hit a bet. So I started off 0 for 4, just quarter unit sprinkles though. I had a quarter unit sprinkle on the Choi by knockout. Did not hate that shot whatsoever. Choi had multiple opportunities. Actually, Trezano that got the first round knockout, which on FanDuel, that Trezano knockout in the first round was plus 2,900. So I lost a quarter unit on the Choi by knockout. I also lost a quarter unit on the Gomez Juarez to win by knockout. I thought that was her path to victory. Obviously did not come through. So lost that bet. I lost on Otman Azaitar to win in round 1, quarter unit on that. It was actually for Vola that got the first round finish. So I'm getting the violence right, just on the wrong side of things. And then the other thing I got wrong was, what else did I miss? I missed something. Oh, I had a bet on Wellington Tournament as well. So I started off the night 0 for 4. People were coming to my channel. They were dogging me. One guy said, delete my channel, to delete my channel. Another guy said that I was an amateur. Another guy, just everybody was dogging me. It's a terrible start, horrible start. But it is not how you start. It is how you finish. After that Wellington Tournament loss bet, I hit every single bet after that. After that, I went out there and hit the Moicano by submission plus 450. I hit the fight doesn't go to decision in the Moicano-Riddell fight. That was a huge fight for me. I also hit the Blanchfield McCann fight doesn't go to decision plus 140. That was sweat-free. I hit the this was the big one. This is this is the big one. The Dan Hooker money line. Minus 142. Minus 142. Wish I would have went a little bit heavier on it, but that was my second biggest play of the night. Dan Hooker there. Not much to say. I mean, the narrative all week was, Dan Hooker was a bum. He was washed. I'll be honest, there was a bum in that fight, but the bum was definitely not Dan Hooker. That was a pitiful performance by one Claudio Poyas, and that was probably the most mispriced line of the year. We're not going to see another line like Dan Hooker against Claudio. Just a ridiculous line. It made no sense. So that was my main event because I talked so much crap all week. Dan Hooker's not a bum. Had the big Dan Hooker is not a bum rant. So that felt very, very good. So after that, I did have the finish only for Chris Gutierrez. I thought if there was a finish, it would definitely be on the Chris Gutierrez side. And boy, was it ever. That was actually my biggest play of the night. So hit that. Then I had Dustin Poirier to win inside the distance, plus 115. Sweaty, but man, that felt good. Dustin Poirier weathered a very early storm as expected. Lost the second round, came in the third, and got the submission win. So that was nice. And then I had the under 4.5 rounds with Sparza Zhang, plus 106. that was sweat free. As soon as the fight started, I knew it was going to finish just the way, Zhang was going out there and fighting, and she was able to get the sub. She looked phenomenal. Her submission game looked really good. She's very strong. And then I had to end the night, I had the fight doesn't go to decision in the Adesanya Pereira fight. Yeah, obviously it was looking like it wasn't going to cash, and then all of a sudden Pereira came out there in the fifth round and put it on Adesanya and stopped him there. So yeah, started out 0 for 4 and then just hit every single fight after that. So that was great. And then I also hit a Hail Mary parlay plus 881 and I had accordion on that to win a little over 2 units. I had Aaron Blanchfield money line minus 400. I had Reyes Span fight doesn't go to decision minus 325. I had Zhang Wei Li to win inside the distance plus 100, and then Dan Hooker to win inside the distance plus 200. So probably one of the better nights of the year for me. I'm on a 3-fight event winning streak. I'd be on a 7-event winning streak right now if the Jan O'Malley decision went to Petr Yan. So it's been a pretty good run. So how'd you guys do last night? Any surprises last night? Just a great card. I think there was 11 finishes. I predicted 10, and that was a ton. But yeah, 11 finishes. I think there were like 7 in the very first round. So yeah, it was a great card. It was a great card. We got Angelo in the chat saying, let's go. Let's go. I agree. We got Prison Mike in the house. What is up, Prison Mike? Frozen like Elsa. Yeah, I couldn't believe it, man. I mean, Adesanya was up 3-1 on all 3 judges' scorecards. Up 3-1. And Pereira went out there, did what he needed to do. He needed to finish, and he got it. I mean, props to him. The 2 bets in the game, well, only one is here right now. Hopefully, Weezy will be joining us very soon. Sound is gone. You muted. Never mind. There we go. Choi versus Trezano might have been the greatest back and forth round I've ever seen. It was phenomenal, man. The double knockdown to Trezano knocking down Choi to Choi hurting Trezano multiple times, and then Trezano finishing the fight, which, I mean, that was wild. I was not expecting Trezano to finish Choi in the first round. I mean, Trezano was pissed off apparently because they wouldn't let him wear his hat, and he went out there and took it out on Choi. So that was insane. How about Danny Hooker? Give it up. Yeah, just great performance there. Great performance there. I lost money on Airbender. Yeah, I feel bad for the bets on, Adesanya because he was looking good. He was winning the fight. He was on his way to winning the fight, but the 5th round knockout. Appreciate you, Prince. Dan won me the bag too. Yeah, shout out to Dan. I mean, that was my second biggest bet of the night. Wish I would have went heavier. I was planning on going heavier if the line would have kept going down, but it ended up just going back the other way, closer to fight time. Dan is the effing man. Reyes has no chance. Oh, yeah, I also did hit I had a parlay with Reyes fight doesn't go to decision. So that was good. I don't want to say I wasn't extremely surprised about that because, Reyes, there was some question marks with him coming back in. There was some question marks about, where his head's at. He had that layoff. And Ryan Spann is dangerous. This is a light heavyweight fight, so it's not the most shocking thing in the world. But, yeah, Dominic Reyes went from arguably beating John Jones to on a 4-fight skid. So I'm curious to see what's next for him. I'm so glad Dan exposed Poyas for the bum he is. Yeah, I think he has a lot more work to do. I mean, it was a big step up in competition. I should have smashed at hooker line. Poyas was awful. I didn't think it would be that bad of a performance from Poyas, but, I mean, it was about as bad as you can get. A Propaholic in the building. I know he had a good night as well. And that was weird as well. They did cheat right in front of us. It looked like they were erasing something, writing something else on the scorecards. That was insane. I told y'all Chris was legit. Oh, we already know. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows by now. Chris Gutierrez is definitely legit, and it had a very good fight ahead of him with a 41-year-old Frankie Edgar. So I mean, I'm sure everybody knows by now. Rest in peace, Anthony Johnson. Absolutely heartbreaking news. Rest in peace. That's terrible. I was shocked when I saw that. Yep, the scorecards. I don't know what happened there. Adesanya wasn't KO'd. He was just style bending forward. Yeah, a lot of people not agreeing with that stoppage. I thought the stoppage was fine. I mean, Oi!
Oi!
Yes.
Get some help, Weezy's computer. Yeah, I'm having a rough computer day, everybody. I apologize for this. This thing is just so slow right now, and I had to restart the thing because it just got frozen. But I think I'm up and ready to go here, dude. Where are we at?
You only missed one thing.
What was that?
The breaking news. Dan Hooker is not a bum. He's not a bum.
He's not, man. He's not. And Puelli's looked absolutely terrible, man. He looked like a less competent Ryan Hall. Just kind of like doing the scooching and the Imanari rolls. It was a bad look for the judges. And yeah, Hooker got the job done, man. It was my biggest bet of the night, and that worked out beautifully. He did it cleanly. It was a good look.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I did my recap, talked about starting out 0-4, then hitting every single bet after that. So it was a good night for me. I know you had an even better night, pretty much hitting everything yourself. So go ahead and talk about that real quick.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like the only bet that I missed was the Wellington Turman money line at plus 186 for 1 unit, but I got the over 2.5 in that fight at plus 135. That cashed. I got the under 2.5 Brady at plus 180 in the Blanchfield McCann fight. And I mean, as soon as Aaron got that to the ground, you knew that it was just going to be a matter of time before that fight finished. I had Moicano by sub. That cashed. I had 3 units on Dan Hooker's money line as Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. I had 2.1 units on the Gutierrez finish only prop over Frankie Edgar. And I think that's it. But it was a great night, up 7.3 units, I think. And my greasy 4-leg parlay, dude, the 4th leg was Israel Adesanya's money line. So I was counting. It would have been 7.3 units tracked and then 3.7 units untracked on that greasy 4-leg parlay. But, man, it did not wind up working out. Congratulations, Alex Pereira. Dude's got absolutely monstrous power. And he got the job done over a much more experienced mixed martial artist than Adesanya. Great card. And I'm looking forward to talking about this next one. Definitely way lower level than the last one, Brady, but there's some decent spots here. There are some spots that are sticking out for me, so I'm looking forward to breaking it down with you guys.
Yeah, I think it should be a good card for sure. Definitely kind of a step down in terms of like the name value from last night, but I think it's going to be a violent card. So I say we get right into it. By the way, get some help, Claudio Poyas. You need some help. All right, so get some help. Yes, sir. All right, let's get into the first fight of the card. We got Natalia Silva going against Teresa Bleda. We got Silva, who is 25 years old, 5'4", with a 65-inch reach. Bleda, 20 years old, 5'9", with a 71-inch reach. We got Bleda 5 years younger, Bleda with a 5-inch reach or height advantage, and then a 6-inch reach advantage. Natalia Silva, she is 5-0 in her last 5 fights. She made her debut against Jazz DeVicious. Won that fight by decision, and then Bleda is 5-0 in her last 5 fights as well. Weezy, this is one that I have not looked into as much as I would have liked to, so I'm going to kick this to you. Is there anything you saw in these two?
Yeah, I mean, I watched the tape, almost all of the tape, except for the Dana White Contender Series on Bleda. And Silva, so what was interesting about Silva was she's one of these cases, Brady, where she started very young in her career, right? Silva's got 19 professional fights. She's been a pro for 7.6 years, but she's 25, right? So she's starting professional fighting at the age of 17. And then she had almost 3 years off between the Joyce Mara and the Jasmine Jazz DeVicious fight. And we always tell bettors, be very careful when you're betting on or against one of these young fighters coming off a long layoff, because there's always the possibility that they're going to look like a completely different fighter than they did in their last fight, right? And that's exactly what happened here with Natalia Silva. She took 3 years off, came back against Jazz DeVicious, and looked amazing. And like 30 seconds into the fight, you hear DC say, this looks completely different than all the tape that I've seen on her. Her striking looks amazing compared to what I saw on tape. So we have a very young fighter here in Natalia Silva, who's 25 years old, coming off a 3-year layoff, and she looked fantastic against Jasmine Jazz DeVicious. But look at Teresa Bleda, born in 2001. She is 20 years old, and she's got a lot of measurables advantages here, Brady. 4.5 years younger, 5 inches taller, 6-inch reach advantage. It's a southpaw versus orthodox matchup here with Silva as the southpaw. Silva's also got that. Silva's got the experience advantage here with 13 more professional fights, almost 50 more minutes in the pro cage. And she's been a pro for over 5 years longer. Teresa's been a bit busier as a pro, and both fighters have the exact same UFC experience stats. Silva's got the finish stats advantage. Blada's got the durability advantage, as Natalia has the better finish rate as a pro, 77% for Natalia, 66% for Blada. Natalia has 7 KOs and 3 subs, while Teresa has 2 of each. Silva's been finished, though, in 3 of 5 pro losses, while Blada's never lost as a pro or an amateur, so I'd have to give Blada the durability advantage. Silva is going to be the better striker, it looks like, on the feet here, but Blada's no slouch on the feet either here. But Silva looked fantastic in her UFC debut. She landed 96 strikes and only absorbed 31 against Jazz Davicius, while showing 69% striking defense. Teresa has serviceable stand-up as well, but she clearly prefers to grapple. So I feel like as long as this fight is on the feet, it's going to be Silva who's most comfortable, and then it'll be Blada who's most comfortable in the grappling. And she wrestles often. She has great top control, ground and pound. She's consistently hunting for takedowns and submissions. She accrued 74% control time in her Dana White Contender Series fight and allowed 12.3% control time. So 86.33% of her fight was taking place in control time positions for or against. So Silva got controlled in her UFC debut 24% to 7.5% by Jazz Davicius, but she showed fantastic takedown defense, Brady. Jasmine tried to take her down, I believe, 7 or 8 times, was unsuccessful every time. Silva just showed great balance, used the cage to protect against the takedowns, and was very, very good in terms of stopping those takedowns or getting on top herself and then circling back to the center of the cage. And she showed great footwork, Brady. She was circling constantly. So it's going to be difficult for Blada to be able to track her down to get her to stop moving long enough to shoot that double leg here. So, but I do see Blada still being the more effective grappler in this fight because that's what she tries to do. And the strength of schedule advantage, I'm giving to Blada as well, as she's faced the better regional scene competition with better records. So I have to give her the edge here. And even as an amateur, Teresa Blada's got a win over Lucy Pudilova. She's got another one over Maddalena Sormova, I believe. These are pros. And she was fighting as an amateur against professionals and winning those fights. It was very weird. It was like an octagon. Octagon was the promotion, and she wound up being there for a while as an amateur and fighting these professional fighters and beating them. This would have been when she was 17 years old, by the way. So, this girl is definitely a prodigy. And but it's a very interesting fight. So Silva's got the overall experience advantage, Brady, the slightly better finish rate as a pro, and the striking advantage. While Blada has huge measurables advantages here, she's more durable, and she has the grappling and strength to schedule advantage as well. So Silva looked fantastic the last time out, and people weren't expecting that. So there is the possibility maybe of a letdown on Silva's part. It's a very interesting fight to start off the card. I don't really have a pick at this point. I gotta look into it even more, but this is a great fight for the 125-pound division with 2 young prospects squaring off against each other.
Yes, Silva is a favorite. She opened up plus 100, and she's now minus 175. Blada opened up minus 120. She's now plus 150. Propaholic was talking about some violence potentially in this fight. The fight doesn't go, opened up at plus 145. Currently plus 125. Is violence sticking out? And any thoughts on that line for Silva?
Well, Silva's been finished 3 times in her career, but it's been a minute. Like I say, Silva was getting finished back when she was 17, 18 years old. So I don't know if there's going to be a finish in this fight. Like I say, I since I didn't see any of the lines opening on Bet Online yet, Brady, I haven't even entered anything into the prop template yet. So we're going to have to take a look at that fight by fight here. But yeah, I mean, if Blada gets on top, she's going to be looking very good there. And if it stays on the feet, Silva definitely showed some power So, I mean, I could see this finishing inside the distance, but at only plus 120 for a featherweight, for a flyweight fight that goes the distance about 60% of the time might be a little bit too much to pay.
Man, that's a good point. Silva has been finished 3 times, but they were all back in 2015, which 2015 was a while ago.
He was 18 years old.
Yeah.
So and like I say, the improvements that she made between the Mara fight and the Jazz Davicius fight were absolutely right there to be anybody could see them.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I have to look into this one more. I kind of blew it off last second and didn't quite get to it, so don't plan on betting on it anyway. So so we'll see what happens. All right, moving on to the next fight, we got Brady Hiestand going against Fernie Garcia. We have Fernie Garcia, 30 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. Hiestand, 23 years old, 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. We got Hiestand 7 years younger, 1-inch height advantage, and a 4-inch reach advantage. Garcia is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He knocked out Josh Weems on the Contender Series in the first round. That was his first ever knockout win. And then he lost a decision to Journey Newson in his debut in the UFC. Brady Hiestand, he was on the Ultimate Fighter there. He's 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He lost a very close decision against Ricky Turcios, a fight that probably could have went either way. He got a ton of control in that fight, but he did lose a lot of the striking exchanges. And yeah, I feel like this is a good spot for Brady here. I just like the guy's style. This is a guy that can go out there and wrestle for 15 minutes and just not get tired. And that's a style that's very, very tough to deal with. I think they said he's worked with like Michael Chiesa, and that just makes a ton of sense to me the way this guy fights. Fernie Garcia, he does have a wrestling background, but he's going to probably want to keep this standing in this fight. He's also a BJJ purple belt, so he's not like a bum on the map, but I just think Brady's going to be stuck to him like glue the entire time. Fernie's takedown defense isn't great. Have seen him taken down fairly easy. What I will say is his get-up game looks really good. Haven't really seen anybody try to or be able to hold him down, but I feel like Brady's just going to be so relentless, and I feel like he can potentially get a ton of takedowns here. So I do lean towards Brady, very young guy, only 23 years old. We can expect to see some serious improvements, and I was pretty impressed with what I saw in the Ultimate Fighter, and at that time he was only like 22, and I was decently impressed in the Turcios fight as well. So I'm going to lean Brady here, but I know you have a stronger lean than me on this one, Weezy.
Yeah, I do. I love the measurables advantage here for Brady. As he's 7 years younger, an inch taller, has a 4-inch reach advantage. So we like all of that on the Hiestand side. And it's Garcia who has the experience advantage here. 5 more pro fights, over 80 more minutes in the pro cage, and he has 3 more years as a pro fighter. Fernie has 1 more UFC level fight, but he's only got 2 more minutes in the UFC cage. The finish stats and durability goes to Hiestand here. Brady has the better finish rate as a pro, 80% in his wins compared to 40% for Fernie. And Garcia has been finished in 2 pro losses, while Brady's been finished once in 2 losses by knockout. The striking advantage I go to Garcia here is he's got nice crisp boxing. He's heavy on his lead leg. He throws in combination, and he prefers to keep fights standing in that boxing range. Brady is clearly less comfortable in striking range, and he grapples a ton to make up for what he thinks is his weakness, distance striking. So 68% of the Turcios fight took place in control time positions, and Brady won 75% of those control time positions in that fight. But he was still outlanded 100-66 in significant strikes, which meant when the fight was standing, Ricky was doing better work. Brady showed 41.5% striking defense in that fight, so he'd be best suited to get that fight to the ground. Now, the grappling advantage is going to Brady Hiestand here. Brady wrestles nonstop. He tries to get to your back and choke you out. He thrives in control time positions, and he has the gas tank to push the pace for 3 full rounds. Now, Fernie shows terrible takedown defense at the UFC level and on the regional scene, and he always seems to lose rounds when his opponents wrestle. And Brady is for sure going to wrestle early and often here. I've also seen Fernie slow down late in fights. That will be very bad for him if he does, because Brady's going to stick to him like glue and probably drown him late in the fight if the takedown defense and get-up game haven't improved for Fernie. Now, Fernie's get-up game is much better than his takedown defense. But if we look at the regional scene competition for Fernie, I believe it was either the Jay Viola fight or the fight. It was right around that Viola fight where he lost. Let me get this information here real quick here on Tapology. As Fernie, when he lost to Cody Freeman in a split decision, Cody started wrestling late in the second round, got a takedown, won the round because of that. And then in the third, he just got more takedowns and wound up winning the fight because of that. In the Jay Viola fight, it was the Ryan Hayes fight. He won that one via split decision. And he won the first round pretty clearly, did Fernie Garcia. But in the second round, Ryan started landing a lot of leg kicks. And in the third round, he decided to take him down early in the fight, and he wound up being on top for the rest of the round. He's losing third rounds regularly to low-level competition, to guys like Ryan Haynes and Cody Freeman. And the guys that he's beating, Isaiah Baton Gonzalez, Joshua Weems, these are guys that don't have any striking in their resume at all. Or I'm sorry, Gonzalez actually is a very good striker, but he did not attempt any takedowns in that fight. So he didn't make Fernie uncomfortable there. And Josh Weems, obviously, not quite UFC level either here. And Journey Newson just kind of picked apart Garcia because of the karate style striking that Journey Newson has. He was able to outstrike him from a distance, but he also mixed in takedowns and won some minutes there as well. So I really like the grappling advantage that Hiestand is going to have in this fight. I think it's a great stylistic matchup for him to win minutes there. The strength of schedule, I have even. There's not much to see here. Fournier is more experienced, but Brady was in the tough house, and that's like a crash course in MMA. So both guys have faced good competition. Brady crushed complete cans before being in the tough house, but he performed well from then on out. So Garcia's got that experience advantage, the durability advantage, in my opinion, and the striking advantage, while Brady's got really nice measurables advantages, the grappling advantage, and he's been the better and more diverse finisher as a professional. I love Brady in this spot, and I think he drowns Fernie in the grappling and breaks him late in the fight. I don't like the fact that Fernie slows down late in fights. I hate the fact that he's got bad takedown defense, because if you have bad takedown defense against Brady, it doesn't matter if you keep getting up. You're going to get mat returned if you can't stop takedowns. And it's not like Brady's just going to disengage voluntarily back into the middle of the cage and let this dude box with him. I mean, there's nothing on the Brady Hiestand tape to suggest that he's just going to let this dude box with him. So I've got a max bet Brady, 5 units, minus 148 on Brady Hiestand. Hate the stylistic matchup here for Fernie Garcia, and I think Brady's going to shave this kid's ass.
There you go. He opened up minus 135. He is currently minus 156. Curious to see where the line goes there. Mushroom in the chat is saying fight goes to decision over 2.5, which is weird. I don't typically see Mushroom saying non-violence things, but yeah, I really have no strong lean towards the violence or non-violence. I would lean the over, I suppose, but not something I'm going to be touching.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out because, Garcia is a guy who's went to decision a lot. 60% of his wins are by decision and only one win by decision for Brady in his career. But now that he's up here at this level, it's going to be difficult for him to get finishes. So, yeah, I could see this one going over. But, like I say, man, I got to get these numbers into the prop template before I can see everything and decide what I like to bet.
Yeah, for sure. All right, moving on, we have Vanessa Demopoulos going against Maria Oliveira. We got Demopoulos, 34 years old, 5'1" with a 62-inch reach. Maria Oliveira, 25 years old, 5'5" with a 69-inch reach. Oliveira, 9 years younger, 4-inch height advantage, and a 7-inch reach advantage. Massive tail-to-tape advantage in favor of Maria Oliveira. And she was like a really big dog in her last fight against Gloria DePaula, and she was able to win that. Prior to that, she lost to Tabitha Ricci. No shame in that loss. She's 3-2 in her last 5 fights. As far as Demopoulos, she was 3-2 in her last 5 fights as well. She made her debut against JJ Aldrich, lost by decision, beat Silvana Gomez-Juarez by submission, and then beat Jinyu Fry by split decision her last time out. So yeah, striker versus grappler matchup here, clear as day. Maria Oliveira, she's going to be much, much bigger in this matchup. Nice reach advantage. And like I said, I thought she made a very good account of herself in her last fight where she went out there and I don't know, she looked much, much better than she had before. It looked like she kind of leveled up. And she's only 25, so that's definitely can be expected. Like on the feet, I think it's Maria Oliveira all day, every day. Demopoulos just blocks punches with her face, and she's super tough, but Oliveira is going to have such a massive reach advantage, such a big striking advantage. Demopoulos is going to have to get this fight down to the mat. I did see Demopoulos go out there and take down Jinyu Fry. A very nice entry there, but her wrestling still needs a ton of work. 1 for 14 on her takedowns, only completing takedowns at a 7% accuracy. I'm hoping she's making improvements. She's training at Fight Ready, but she is 34 years old. This is a tough matchup because if this fight hits the mat, I think Demopoulos is a very good opportunity to submit Oliveira, who's been submitted twice. But on the feet, it's Oliveira all day, especially considering Oliveira looked phenomenal on the feet in her last fight. So I think it's a pick'em. I'd be shocked if it wasn't, because this fight feels like a complete pick'em. Is Demopoulos going to be able to get this fight down to the mat? If she does, she probably subs her. If not, I think Oliveira beats the shit out of Demopoulos. Potentially could even finish her. I think the striking advantage is going to be heavily in the favor of Oliveira. So I don't know, Weezy. I'm definitely not betting, but I'm curious to your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I don't think anybody ever finishes Vanessa Demopoulos, Brady, but you know that I've been saying that for years. And Silvana Gomez Juarez was about this close, dude. It was, I think some refs might have even stopped that fight. So, but I always count on that Spartan-like toughness of Vanessa Demopoulos. She really is somebody that's a fighter. There's no quit in this young lady at all. So it's going to be a really interesting fight, and you broke it down perfectly. This is a striker versus grappler matchup, and the way these ladies fight this fight is going to determine, which one of them wins. And that's why I'm thinking Vanessa Demopoulos wins, because I know I can count on her coaching. I know I can count that they're going to be working on that cage wrestling for Vanessa. I know they're going to be telling Vanessa to pressure this girl, walk forward like a zombie with your hands up, corner her, and then shoot in on those double legs and make her grapple. Because look, Oliveira's got this ridiculous measurables advantage here, Brady. 9 years younger. That's statistically significant. We know that. But she's also 4 inches taller and has a 7-inch reach advantage here. So huge measurables advantages for Oliveira. In addition to that, even though Oliveira is 25 and Vanessa's 34, Oliveira's got more MMA experience as well here. The UFC experience advantage does go to Demopoulos, but Maria's got 6 more pro fights, 25 more minutes in the pro cage, and over 2 more years as a pro fighter, while Vanessa has the UFC experience advantage with 1 more fight and almost 15 more minutes in the UFC cage. The finish stats and durability, that goes to Demopoulos. Both ladies have pro finish rates at 63%, but Vanessa's finished a UFC win, while Oliveira hasn't. And Vanessa's incredibly durable. She's never been finished in her pro career, and she definitely has that Spartan toughness in her, while we've seen Oliveira quit in the cage against Maryna Rodriguez, and she's been finished in 3 of 5 pro losses, but she was young when she was getting finished too. So, we are seeing these improvements out of Maryna Oliveira at this point. So I'd say Vanessa has more finishing equity here, and she's way more durable. The striking advantage, though, that's Oliveira. 7-inch reach advantage, the straighter, crisper punches should have the striking edge here. Neither lady is a world beater on the feet, but Vanessa's going to have to pressure and close distance if she wants to have any success in this spot. Both ladies have significant strike differentials sitting around -1, and both ladies have terrible, 45% striking defense. So it'll probably be ugly when it's on the feet, but I see Oliveira having the edge there. But in the grappling, obviously, that's Vanessa. She's an excellent submission grappler, and she always wants the fight to be in grappling positions. Almost 50% of Vanessa's fights have taken place in control time positions, and she's winning about 35% of them, but she's dangerous on top and on the bottom due to her constant hunting for submissions. So Vanessa's averaging 1.27 submission attempts per 15 minutes, but she's only 1 of 14 on her takedown attempts. But we did see that wrestling improve in the Jinyu Fry fight, Brady. Prior to that, she had not basically, she wasn't even really trying to get takedowns either. But we knew that she was deficient in the wrestling. We see that there's improvements being made there now. Oliveira has 50% takedown defense, and she gets out-controlled at better than a 4-to-1 ratio in control time positions. So I definitely see a path for Vanessa here to win minutes on the ground if she can walk forward like a zombie, use her strikes to set up her takedown attempts. And if she's doing that, she can win minutes in the grappling, just like Maria can win minutes in the striking exchanges. The strength of schedule goes to Oliveira at the UFC level. Small sample sizes here, but Maria is fighting the UFC competition with better win-loss records, and her wins are a little bit better than Vanessa's. But I think on the regional scene, I think it's all Demopoulos, who was fighting Lupi Godinez. She had some good opponents prior to being in the UFC. So Vanessa's got a slight UFC experience advantage. She's more durable, and she's got the better UFC finish rate, and she's definitely got the grappling advantage here, while Maria Oliveira's got really nice measurables advantages, pro experience advantage, striking advantage, and the UFC strength of schedule advantages. I think if Vanessa can get this fight into the grappling exchanges, she'll be able to shine here. It's a greasy fight, though. It'll be up to Vanessa to pressure, close distance, and go for takedowns, wrestle on the cage. If she does that, I think she's going to win this fight.
Yeah, I have no interest in betting this fight. I mean,
what's the line, dude?
I think, Oliveira's minus 115 and Demopoulos is minus 105.
That sounds just about right to me. It reminds me of the Kovalevich Gomez Juarez fight a little bit.
Yeah,
just in terms of, you could see a path for either fighter. And in this one being striker versus grappler, it's even easier to see those paths. So I don't know if I'll be planting my flag on this one, but you know me, Brady, there is always one bet that I'm making in Vanessa Demopoulos fights, and I don't see why I wouldn't make it in this one as well, and that's the finish-only prop, saying that if the fight goes to the scorecards, there's no bet. But if there is a finish in this fight, it's going to be Vanessa finishing Maria and not the other way around. So if I can get that finish-only prop around plus 100 for Demopoulos, you might see me laying a hammer there, my friend, and just counting on the Spartan-like toughness of the Greek Vanessa Demopoulos.
Fair enough. I mean, I just think she's going to get hit in the face a ton, which kind of like Negamariano. I thought he would never get done.
I don't care, dude. You could hit her in the face with a shovel. She's going to keep walking forward.
All right. Yeah, she's tough, but man, the striking defense. But yeah, I'm not betting this fight. I would never think about betting this fight. We can move on for sure. All right, moving on to probably an even worse fight. I hate this fight. I hate this fight. I hate it. I hate both these guys. But let's talk about it. We have Ricky Turcios going against Kevin Natividad. We got Turcios, 29 years old, 5'9" with a 71-inch reach. Kevin Natividad, 29 years old, 5'6" with a 70-inch reach. Turcios is going to have a 3-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage. Ricky Turcios is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He had that decision win against Brady Hiestand. He had a decision loss to Amin Zahabi as a favorite there. And then Kevin Natividad, he is 0-2 in the UFC, a knockout loss to Miles Johns and a knockout loss against Danaa Bakary. I don't know what the heck happened in the Turcios fight against Amin Zahabi. And thank goodness I did not have a bet on Turcios in that fight, but I did. I was like all over him on DraftKings. That was a version of Turcios I've just never seen in my life. And like, you take a look at the stats for that fight, and they're kind of laughable. Ricky Turcios in that fight, he landed at a 20. No, he didn't. An 11% significant strike accuracy. An 11% significant strike accuracy. 27 for 235. Hit in air. Ji-Young Kim style. 7 for 53 in the first. 10 for 84 in the second. And 10 for 98 in the third. Ricky Turcios, what were you doing in that fight? So I'm thinking, Weezy, maybe it was a one-off, because you go watch any other fight, and that's not the case. That's definitely not the case. So I'm hoping it was a one-off, but he looked horrible. And he was in that fight, and he's just messing around. He's like yelling. He was going like this. He was in the middle of the cage. He's like, come on. And it kind of reminded me of when I was on senior trip and I went to the strip club, and I was at the stage, and this lady, the stripper, came up to me, and she was like smacking her ass. She's like, come on. So I was like, okay, I'll give you $1. And then she comes back. She's like, come on, smacking her ass right in front of my face. Come on. So I give her another $1. I'm not really feeling her. I mean, she's not the best looking. And then, but I feel obligated to give her $1. And then she just like, come on. I get up and leave. I'm like, no, I'm not giving you any more money. And that's kind of what it reminded me of. Ricky Turcios just like, come on. Yeah, come on, Ricky, land something. So, and then on the flip side, Kevin Natividad, I think he's one of the worst fighters on the roster. So this is a spot where I'm kind of tempted to bet Ricky. I think there's some serious reasons he biased because he looked like complete crap in his last fight. And I think a line could look like an absolute steal because people are probably very down on him. But Kevin Natividad, I just don't think he's good. I mean, we talk about the accuracy of Turcios. Kevin Natividad is landing at a 24% clip, 10% less than Turcios. Kevin Natividad is 0 for 1 in takedowns, and I have a feeling he's going to go for takedowns here. And he maybe has success, but this should be Turcios all day. But the last performance, I think, is scaring a lot of people away. But again, I think it just might have been a one-off. So give me Turcios, and I'm potentially thinking about laying a bet here, Weezy.
Wow, dude, I'm not going to talk shit because I got 5 units on Brady he stand, and he hasn't fought in over a year, So I mean, like I just, these guys, I don't know about these guys, dude. Turcios is 3 inches taller, 1 inch reach advantage. They're about the same age. They're both orthodox. Turcios has got an experience advantage, 2 more pro fights, 50 more minutes in the pro cage, 3 more years as a pro fighter. He also has the UFC experience advantage with 1 more fight and over 30 more minutes in the UFC cage. Natividad has been a bit more active as a pro, fighting twice a year, while Ricky, it's like about 1.5. Natividad, the better finisher as a pro. Turcios has been more durable. The striking advantage, I'm giving to Turcios, but I mean, come on, Brady. Neither one of these guys can hit water. They couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat. Look at Natividad, 24.83% striking accuracy. And then look at Turcios, 34% striking accuracy. The only thing that's going to be taking a beating in this fight is the fresh air in the middle of the cage as these guys slap fight at each other and don't come within 6 inches of each other's chin. So that's going to be rough to watch. But at least I favor the variety, the volume, of Turcios over the bomb swinging like one at a time, high risk, high reward striking that Natividad brings. Turcios throws 6.31 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents, and he's got a positive 1.25 significant strike differential, while Natividad's is minus 1.39. So I think Turcios wins the minutes here, even if he mostly just hits fresh air when he strikes. The grappling, I got kind of even. I mean, Natividad's a good grappler, but I just don't see him going to it often. It seems Kevin has fallen in love with his hands. Turcios has shown 45% takedown defense, and he gets out-controlled at a 3-to-1 ratio in control time positions. But he does have an excellent get-up game, and he shows urgency to either hunt for submissions or sweeps. And if that doesn't work, he gets right back up. So even if Kevin does wrestle here, I'm not sure he's going to be able to hold this guy down. Turcios is 2 of 11 on his takedown attempts and gets less than 6% control time. So I mean, he might grapple some here, but we can't count on him to consistently winning minutes at this level in the grappling. The strength of schedule at the UFC level is Natividad, but it's Turcios outside the UFC. Turcios has the measurables, the overall in the UFC experience, the durability, and the minute-winning potential, in my opinion, in the striking exchanges. While Natividad is the better finisher, faced the better competition at the UFC level, I think Ricky wins by decision just by doing more, but I wouldn't be surprised if Kev landed a bomb and got Ricky out of there. I'm probably just staying away from this fight, but the early pick, I guess, is Turcios by decision. But, man, I mean, the thought of laying juice on Ricky Turcios, who was kind of like a guy going into the house, Brady, that I was just like, I'm not entirely sure what this guy is good at, He throws a lot of volume, but he doesn't have a lot of power. He gets the occasional takedown, but it's not like he's this slick submission grappler. He's exciting. He throws the kitchen sink at you, and he brings a lot of variety with his strikes, but he's not spectacular anywhere. So laying juice on that dude is something that I just can't do, even though I think Kevin Natividad is just probably not UFC level, man. There's just been nothing that I've seen from this guy that's got me saying, man, maybe he's got a chance to win here. So it's a stay away from me. But I mean, I can understand why some people would be like, you know what, I'm backing up the truck on Tercios because I just see nothing from Natividad.
Yeah, I think Natividad's atrocious. But yeah, I mean, Tercios opened up -185, currently -155. Kevin Natividad opened up +160, currently +135. Yeah, that was one spot that did stick out to me, believe it or not. So just one of those cards. But yeah, I do like
it is. We got to take what they give us, right, Brady?
Yep. So thought it was a potential buy low spot because it's just Natividad, man. I mean, I don't know. He's looked awful in the UFC, so we'll see. No thoughts for me on the fight goes or doesn't go. I lean it going, but no strong take there. Anything else on this fight? It's a pretty terrible one.
Yeah, I lean it probably going the distance, but yeah, like I say, man, I probably will not have my money anywhere near that fight.
Yeah, maybe I'll just do like a unit if anything. Don't want to be too invested. But we have the next fight. We got Miles Johns going against Vince Morales. We have Miles Johns, 28 years old, 5'7" with a 66-inch reach. Morales, 31 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. Johns, 3 years younger, and it's going to be Morales with a 70-inch reach advantage. Miles Johns, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He won a decision against Cole Smith. He lost by knockout against Mario Batista. He knocked out that bum, Kevin Natividad. He got a win over Anderson Dos Santos by knockout, and then he got submitted by John Castaneda. As far as Vince Morales, 2-3 in his last 5 fights. A decision loss to the realtor Benito Lopez, a knockout loss to Chris Gutierrez, a decision win against Drake Rodriguez, a knockout win against Luis Smolka, and a decision loss to Jonathan Martinez. So Miles Johns is stepping in here on short notice, and I kind of see why he's taking this fight. I mean, Vince Morales has, in my opinion, 2 holes in his game. The first one is the leg kicks. I mean, it's clear as day. We saw Jonathan Martinez go out there, just beat the crap out of his legs. We saw Chris Gutierrez go out there and beat the crap out of his legs and TKO him with the leg kicks. He has not figured it out. And Miles Johns has really good leg kicks. We saw it in the Anderson Dos Santos fight. He had Anderson Dos Santos hurt bad in the legs in the very first round. So I think Miles Johns can come in here and just kick his legs and beat him up that way, compromise him early. And then I also think that Miles Johns could maybe get back to the wrestling. Miles Johns has a wrestling background. He went to it a lot prior to the UFC on the Contender Series. He went to that wrestling. Would like to kind of see him get back to it here because Vince Morales, Augusta Win takes this guy down. Only a 43% takedown defense. I will say his get-up game is pretty good, but I could see Johns mixing in a takedown here or there if he wants to. But yeah, I think the leg kicks is going to be the big difference here. I like the power of Miles Johns. The only real concern for me is the fact that he is stepping in here on short notice, but as long as he's prepared, ready to go, I think it's a very, very winnable fight for him. I think he has multiple paths here. Weezy, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I like the measurables for Morales here because I see this primarily being a striking match. So I think Morales' 4-inch reach advantage will be a bigger factor than the fact that Johns is 3 years younger. The experience advantage also goes to Morales as he's got 3 more professional fights and he's been the busier fighting over twice a year, while Johns fights a little bit less than twice a year, at about 1.7. Vince is also the UFC experience advantage with 2 more fights and over 20 more minutes in the pro cage. The finish stats and durability also goes to Morales. Vince has got the better finish rate as a pro, 73% to 50% for Johns, but it's Johns who has the better UFC finish rate at 50% compared to 33% for Morales. Both guys have been finished before, but it's Johns who has been finished in both of his UFC losses, while Morales has been finished in 2 of 5 UFC losses. So I'll have to give Vince the durability advantage here. The striking advantage, I mean, I think it's going to be close on the feet. Obviously, we see Morales with that 4-inch reach advantage, but it's Miles who's shown the superior UFC striking metrics thus far. He's got the better significant strike differential at positive 0.85 compared to negative 0.09 for Morales. He's more accurate, 51% to 40%. He's got the better striking defense at 69.5% compared to 52% for Morales. And knockdowns per 15, 0.62 for Johns and 0.48 for Morales. It's Morales who has the slightly better knockdowns allowed, though, at 0.32 per 15 minutes to 0.41 for for Johns. Morales has also done a good job of keeping fights standing, which is where he's most comfortable, with just under 93% of his UFC cage time taking place at striking range, while it's about 77% for Johns. And the grappling advantage is John's. Miles is the far more active offensive wrestler, averaging 2 takedown attempts per fight, and he's averaging 0.83 takedowns per 15 minutes to only 0.16 for Morales. In addition to that, Morales only has 43.75% takedown defense on 16 attempts against. So if Miles wants to try to win minutes with his wrestling, the option is obviously there for him. Johns also boasts 93% takedown defense. So I certainly think Miles has the much better chance to win minutes with his grappling here, even though Morales has shown an excellent get-up game after being taken down. The strength of schedule I have with Morales here as he's fought and beaten the better win-loss ratio, more experienced competition. So Johns is 3 years younger. He's got the striking and the grappling advantages here, in my opinion, while Morales has a 4-inch reach advantage, the experience and the overall finish stats, and the durability advantages. He throws more volume in comparison to Johns, and he has the UFC strength of schedule advantage. If this fight plays out on the feet, though, for most of the fight, I think it's going to play out very close. But like you said, Morales being a boxer means he's going to be heavy on that lead leg. And when you're heavy on that lead leg, and it's the same problem for Fernie Garcia, your opponent can just chew it up. And if Miles does choose to go to that, when you're a boxer and your lead leg is gets chewed up beneath the knee, dude, you just all of a sudden you've got nothing left, especially if you're not shooting for takedowns. And Morales has 1 takedown in 8 fights. So, Johns has got to target that calf early and often. If he does that, he can make Vince Morales go from 1-dimensional to 0-dimensional, and then he probably easily wins this fight. But, if Morales has worked on checking those kicks, at maybe bringing a little bit more of a Thai style where he's not so heavy on the lead leg, we could see him having a little more success. But I got to lean on the Johns side here.
Yeah, me too. I'm not sure if I'm going to get there from a bet, but he opened up -160, currently -145. Vince Morales opened up +140, currently +125. Sounds about right to me.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, Johns, I feel like should be the favorite because we know that he's the guy that's going to try to win minutes with the wrestling if it goes there at all, And then even if it doesn't, Johns has got some pretty good power. He's got some pretty good boxing. I think he's competitive there with Vince. I just think Johns is way more likely to win minutes with the grappling, so I think you gotta have him shaded as a favorite here.
Yep, completely agree. Okay, we'll keep moving on. We have Jennifer Maia going against Maryna Moroz. We have Jennifer Maia, 34 years old, 5'4" with a 64-inch reach. Maryna Moroz, 31 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. Moroz, 3 years younger. Moroz with a 3-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage. Maia is 2-3 in her last 5 fights. A submission win against Joanne Calderwood, a decision loss to Valentina Shevchenko, a decision win against Jessica Ai, a decision loss to Caitlin Chukagian, and a decision loss to Manon Fiorot. As far as Moroz, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. A decision loss to Carla Esparza, a decision loss to Angela Hill, a decision win against Sabina Mazo, and a decision win against Mauro Bueno Silva, and a submission win against Maria Agapova. Another competitive fight here. Weez, any thoughts on this one?
I like the measurables for Moroz. She's 3 years younger, 3 inches taller, 3-inch reach advantage. That's the old 3 trays, Brady. And I don't know if you know this, but 3 is the magic number. So, we got to like those 3 threes there for Moroz in the measurables. The experience advantage obviously goes to Maia. She's got 15 more professional fights, 230 more minutes in the pro cage, and 4 more years as a pro fighter. Jennifer also has 20 more minutes in the UFC cage, with the other UFC experience stats pretty much being the same between the two of them. The finish stats and durability, that's Moroz. Maryna's got the better finish rate as a pro, 64% to 47% for Maia. And at the UFC level, 33% finish rate for Maryna, 25% for Maia. Maryna has never been finished in 3 UFC losses, and Maia has never been finished in 5 UFC losses, including a 5-round fight with Valentina Shevchenko. Both ladies are very durable. Maia has been finished twice in her career, but the last time was against Sheila Gaff in the year 2012. So it's been 10 years since Maia's been finished. So both of these ladies are ridiculously durable. In the striking, I have it even. It's close on the feet because Maia keeps all of her fights close. Moroz has a nice volume and significant strike differential advantages, while Maia has slight accuracy and defense advantages. Neither lady is dangerous on the feet, as they have combined for almost 1,000 significant strikes landed at the UFC level, and neither one of them has recorded a knockdown. The grappling, I'm giving the advantage to Moroz here. It's going to be close, but at least Moroz attempts to win minutes with her grappling. Maia is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who only has 3 takedowns in 9 UFC fights. So it's infuriating to watch her piss away opportunities to win minutes with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She just never does it. Moroz, I don't know if she's fucking lazy, Brady. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just piss poor fight IQ or game planning or coaching, but clearly she's so much better in the grappling than she is in the striking, and she just never goes to the grappling. Moroz wins over half of the control time positions she's in, and she averages more takedowns per 15, 0.78 to 0.33 for Maia, and submission attempts per 15 at 0.78 to 0.11 for Maia. Maya's 56% takedown defense, but Moroz isn't any better with 47% takedown defense. So whichever fighter goes to the wrestling first could win minutes here, and that fighter is more likely to be Maryna Moroz, in my opinion. The strength of schedule, that's Maia. She's fought the better ratioed and more experienced competition at the UFC level, but Moroz's wins are over fighters with better win-loss ratios. So in summary, Moroz has the measurables advantage, the finish stats and durability, and the grappling advantages here, while Maia is more experienced. She's fought the better brand of competition. This fight should be close, dude. Be careful laying juice here, because I like Maryna to win, because she will likely do more, in my opinion. But, I mean, Jennifer Maia's fights are always close. They're just always close. I just think maybe Maryna does more here, but, God, I can't. Maybe the over 2.5 if it doesn't open at a crazy price. I really like this fight to go to decision, but it'll probably be juiced up higher than minus 200.
Probably minus 300. I mean, the fight goes as minus 285.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the bookies see the same thing, and that's 2 very durable women with not a lot of finishing equity. So, yeah, I mean, maybe that's a parlay piece or something like that this weekend, but the over 2.5, I think, is the only thing that I'm willing to bet in this fight.
Yeah, to be honest, laying at 180 on Maryna Moroz, it doesn't sound too fun, because it's going to go to decision, right?
Yeah.
We got to trust these judges. And what the heck happened last night? And they took the scorecard. Were they like erased, like changing the scores? We saw it. Like,
I know that was what I mean, like optically, because Brady, it's happened in the past where they've announced a winner, and then those fighters went back to their locker rooms, and then they went back to the winning locker room and were like, "We're sorry, we didn't add 10 plus 10 plus 9 correctly, and you lost." Dude, that's happened before. And I think optically, that's better than some commission guy running into the cage, taking a card out of Bruce Buffer's hand, putting it up against the fence, and then frantically scribbling with a pen on it. I was like, dude, don't do that ever again. You could come back 30 minutes later and explain to us, we don't know how to add. But it would look 10 times better than that shit that they pulled in the Silvana Gomez Juarez. I couldn't believe that, Brady.
Yeah. So I'm not laying minus 180 on this, because like it's going to be close. It's going to be a close fight. Like every Jennifer Maia fight's close, no matter who she's fighting. It could be, it's going to be a close fight. So minus 1, it just makes no sense. If anything, I'd take a shot on Maia, but I just don't want to bet this fight, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. I'll tell you something, because betting on Maia would be the move, in my opinion, because you're getting plus 150, plus 155 on Bet Online. But I mean, it's like, Christ, now you got to count on her to win the fight. And she's just not great. I'm just not a fan of hers, man.
Yeah, because she has this very good ground game, BJJ black belt, and she just doesn't use it. And we always think, she might use it here. She might use it here. No, she never does. So, yeah, a fight that I'm just content with passing for sure. All right, let us keep moving on. We have Zhalgas Zhumagulov going against Charles Johnson. We got Zhalgas, who is 34 years old, 5'4", with a 66-inch reach. Charles Johnson, 31 years old, 5'9", with a 70.5-inch reach. Charles Johnson, 3 years younger, 5-inch reach advantage, and a 4.5-inch height, or no, a 4-inch reach height advantage and a 5.5-inch 4.5-inch reach advantage. There we go. Can't read today. Okay. Charles Johnson, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Muhammad Mokaev, lost that fight by decision. Prior to that, he did knock out Carlos Mata in the 5th round. Zhalgas Zhumagulov is 1-4 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Rolian Paiva, lost by decision. I thought he won that fight. He definitely lost to Mir Albazi by decision. He submitted Jerome Rivera. He got knocked out by Manel Kopp and then lost a decision to Jeff Molina. I guess the biggest thing that sticks out to me, Weezy, is the very interesting hairstyle of Charles Johnson. It has to be probably pound for pound the worst hairstyle I've ever seen in my life. So just for that reason, it kind of gives me some pause. But this is a fight where I do think he should win. I've not been impressed with Zhalgas. I mean, this is a guy that he does go to a lot of close fights. Even like outside the UFC, he's going to close fights with some solid guys. He's a solid fighter. Solid wrestling, solid striking, just doesn't really wow me anywhere. And Charles Johnson, he had a tough debut against Muhammad Mokaev, a guy that's super young. But I feel like this is a much, much, much more winnable matchup for him. And he is the favorite here. So I like Johnson, but don't like the haircut.
Yeah, I don't like his haircut either. I think it's god-awful, to be honest with you. But, you know, what I do like are the measurables advantages for Johnson here. 5 inches taller, 4.5-inch reach advantage. He's 3 years younger, so that's all nice. Zhalgas more experience, 7 more pro fights, 4 more UFC fights. So, you know, and he's been doing this about a year and a half longer than Chuck. So, yeah, I mean, he's got some nice experience advantages there, does Zhalgas. Charles, the better finisher. Charles more durable, as he's never been finished, but Zhumagulov has been finished twice and once at the UFC level. When it comes to the striking, in my opinion, it's all Johnson. Like, I mean, like, this guy is longer. He's crisper with the boxing. He's got great footwork, and he's got fantastic conditioning, so he's not going to slow down later in fights. While Zhalgas just kind of like swings bombs and tries to close that reach disadvantage that he's usually at and set up his takedowns and grappling, which is how Charles lost his UFC debut against Muhammad Mokaev. But, I mean, the pace that Mokaev put on in that fight was something to really behold. It's the kind of pace that you would expect from a 21-year-old fighter, not from a 34-year-old Kazakh here in Zhalgas Zhumagulov. Zhumagulov has attempted 27 takedowns in 5 UFC fights. 27 takedowns in 5 fights. Charles Johnson had 26 takedowns attempted against him in 1 fight at the hands of Mokaev. So if you're counting on Zhalgas winning a ton of minutes here with the grappling, keep in mind he's getting his takedowns less than 20% of the time. On those 27 takedown attempts in 5 fights, he's averaging 13% control time for. So that's not good enough. You know, he's going to need to win a lot more than, say, 20, 25% of this fight in control time positions in order to win the fight. Because Charles Johnson should be clearly doing the better work on the feet if you watch these guys in their striking exchanges. In addition to that, it's going to be Zhalgas who has to push the nastier pace here because he can't let this stay at striking range. It's going to go badly for him if he does. So he's going to need to be walking forward. He's probably not going to be as defensively responsible as Charles Johnson, and he's going to need to really kind of like spam takedown attempts. And Charles just doesn't get tired, and he stopped every single takedown attempt from Mokaev in the first round. I mean, that was pretty impressive. So Zhalgas, if he attempts 10 takedowns in round 1, he's not going to get off the stool in round 2, and Charles is going to pick him apart probably from there on out. So I like Charles Johnson here. I'm a big fan of this guy. Zhalgas has fought the better brand of competition, though, overall. He's more experienced. You know, he's probably the more likely guy to win minutes in the grappling here, but I don't think we can count on him to do that much. So I really do think that this is going to be Charles Johnson's fight to lose.
Yep, I agree. I think he does get it done as well. I think Zhalgas can make it potentially close here and there, but like you said, undefeated should be Johnson all day. Johnson opened up -175. Some money actually has came in on Zhalgas. Johnson's down -155. Zhalgas opened up +150, currently +135 there. And I think this fight does go to decision as well. It looks like the fight goes to decision. It's probably going to be juiced to the tits, but the fight goes decision is, it's not bad. I mean, -165. That's interesting.
Yeah, -165 for a flyweight fight. I mean, that's not bad at all, actually. Let me plug that into the prop template.
Yeah,
Let's see what it says for -165 for fight goes. Only overpriced by 4.35% when you compare it to the benchmark, but these guys are going to decision 2/3 of the time, and the implied probability of the line is only 62.26. And these guys go to decision at an 8.75% rate, higher than the division does. So -165 is not a bad look there, because of these guys, 6 combined UFC fights, only 2 of them have finished inside the distance, and one of them was against that bum Jerome Rivera. So and then Cop caught him with a flying knee, I believe is how Zhumagulov got finished. Am I right about that?
No, Cop flying need Ode Osborne, but Cop just went after him like a madman.
Okay, but it was Cop who finished Zhalgas. Okay. So all right. Yeah, so I mean, and I don't think that Charles has that kind of finishing power. When Charles finished Carlos Mota, it was in the 5th round, and it was because the guys got sick conditioning, and he just turned up the power and started wrestling late in the 4th round, and I think that's when he started to break him, and then he walked him down in the 5th and just destroyed him. So, I'm really excited to see Charles Johnson fight somebody that's not going to attempt 26 takedowns in one fight. And maybe we get to see this guy at range, and we get to see the reasons why the UFC signed this guy, because he's a phenomenal talent.
Yep, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it for sure. And I'm also looking forward to this next fight. We got Jack Della Maddalena going against Danny Roberts. We got Jack Della Maddalena, 26 years old, 5'11", with a 73-inch reach. Danny Roberts, 35 years old, 6'1", with a 74-inch reach. It's going to be Jack Della Maddalena, 9 years younger. It's going to be Roberts with a 2-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage. So Jack Della Maddalena is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He actually started off his career 0-2 with 2 finished losses. He got subbed in 1. He got knocked down in 1. But he's on a 12-fight winning streak. He made his debut against Pete Rodriguez. He won that fight by knockout. Prior to that, did beat Angelusa on the Contender Series by decision. Beat the crap out of Angelusa, and Angelusa showed so much toughness in that fight. But yeah, he looked really good there. And then he knocked out Ramazan Emeev. Really good win there. Was able to fight out of a submission attempt in the 1st round and knocked him out there. Danny Roberts is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Had a submission loss to Claudia Silva, a knockout loss to Michelle Pereira, a knockout win against Zalim Imadaev, a decision win against Ramazan Emeev, and then a decision loss to Francisco Trinaldo. So, yeah, I see what the UFC's doing here. I think they're trying to build up Jack a little bit. And, Danny Roberts, the last fight against Trinaldo, remind you, 42-year-old Trinaldo, 43-year-old Trinaldo. It was a really bad look to me. This guy, Danny Roberts, he was just getting hurt with everything that Trinaldo was landing. I mean, Trinaldo hurt him in every single round of that fight. He was doing the chicken dance every single time. And Trinaldo probably could have finished him. There was this one point where he had Roberts hurt bad, and he just went for a takedown. There was just a ton of times where he's just getting hurt, and the chin is a big concern for me for Danny Roberts. He's been finished multiple times in the UFC. He's getting hurt in a lot of fights. He's been finished a lot. Danny Roberts has been finished 5 times in his 6 losses, 3 by knockout and 2 by submission. He's taken a ton of damage. I don't like his chin. I don't like his striking defense. His striking defense is very questionable at only 51%. Is Danny Roberts going to wrestle? He might try to, but his takedown accuracy is only 11%. I don't like that. I think it's a really tough matchup for Danny Roberts here, and I think there's a reason why Jack Della Maddalena is the biggest favorite here on the card. So I like Jack Della Maddalena. I have him in a parlay. I parlayed him with the Ryan Spann, Dominic Reyes fight. Doesn't go to decision, so I now have 1.5 units on Jack at -150, which I really like. But what I like even more than that, to be honest, is just the violence. Jack Della Maddalena, a 91% finish rate, and he's been finished in both his losses. And then Danny Roberts, a 72% finish rate. He's been finished in 5 out of 6 losses. that is 7 out of 8 total losses. These guys have been finished, and I just don't see Danny Roberts surviving against this guy. I think Jack has a ton of power. His hands are phenomenal. If you're getting rocked, and if you're getting hurt that bad by Francisco Trinaldo, I think Maddalena can definitely get him out of there. Maddalena only one decision win, and that was a decision win where I'm not sure how Angelusa survives. So I like Maddalena. I like Maddalena inside the distance, and I like the fight doesn't go to decision. And we'll talk about the fight doesn't go to decision line in a little bit. There's a lot of violent spots I like on this card, but this is one where they didn't completely overprice it to like minus 400, minus 500, like some of the fights we'll talk about soon. So I like Jack here, biggest favorite on the card. Weezy, any thoughts about this fight?
Yeah, I mean, I like that Jack's 9 years younger than this dude. He's obviously hungrier. 35-year-old Danny Roberts, 24 professional fights, 12 years as a pro. Who knows how much he's got left in the tank at this point. But Jack is clearly young, hungry, and on his way up. And he's got seriously good boxing. You look at the 3 fights that he's had at the UFC level, 20 minutes in the UFC cage, right? Landing 8.24 significant strikes per minute and only absorbing 4.68. He's throwing about 3 more significant strike attempts per minute, almost 50% accuracy, 2 knockdowns in only 20 minutes, 65.5% striking defense. So he's been fantastic on the feet. And he's been taken down two times on 6 attempts, but he's only been controlled for 13% of the 20 minutes. So that's less than 3 minutes of control time on those 6 takedown attempts. And, you see Danny Roberts, 2 of 18 on his takedown attempts. So do we really have to worry about Danny putting on a singlet, going out there and drowning Jack Della Maddalena on the ground? I mean, that would be shocking, especially from a guy who only has 2 takedowns in 12 UFC fights. So if this thing does stay on the feet, yeah, Roberts going to be a couple inches taller. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. But the switch stance against the southpaw is statistically historically, that's really bad for the southpaw, because the southpaw, they're used to fighting orthodox fighters. But if that switch stance fighter is really good at the southpaw versus southpaw, chances are they're going to be the one that's going to be thriving there, because they can only put it into southpaw versus southpaw if they're the one that wants it there. So, it's going to be Della Maddalena probably with more options to land power shots and to play it safe and be defensively responsible when he wants to be. And even though, you look at the win-loss ratio of the competition that Maddalena is facing, and it's actually a little bit better than what Danny Roberts has been facing. But Danny Roberts is facing the much more experienced competition. But yeah, the 7 wins for Danny Roberts at the UFC level, let's go over them, shall we?
Okay.
So, Danny Roberts' first win was against Nathan Coy, 1-2. The next win was against Dominique Steele, 1-4. Bobby Nash, 0-3. Oliver Enkamp, 0-2. David Zawater, 1-4. Zalim Emidayev, 0-3. And then finally, Ramazan Ameev via split decision, 5-3. Add up the records of those 7 wins at the UFC level, 8 wins and 21 losses. His best win was a split decision, very controversial, over Ramazan Ameev, who Jack Della Maddalena absolutely shaved the ass of in the very first round. I remember that fight because I was hanging out at the casino with my guys Narco Cop and Tim Troiano. And I remember being late to the casino because I couldn't find out exactly where they were. And when I walked into the casino, the Angelusa versus Lazez fight was ending. So that fight was going to be next, Della Maddalena versus Ameev. And it took me so long to find them that Ameev was already knocked out by the time I found them. So, this kid, Jack Della Maddalena, this looks like a great spot. The bookies, unfortunately, were not caught with their pants down on this line, Brady. And I think that this is going to be a clean win for Jack.
Yeah, I think so as well. The dog's barking. Hopefully he's wrong. But Jack opened up minus 335. He's currently minus 430. And this kind of surprised me. They had the fight doesn't go to decision at only minus Oh, never mind. It got smashed. It got smashed. It was like minus 185, but now it's minus 210. So rightfully so. I mean, that made no sense. This is a great violent spot. So yeah, I think Jack does get it done and probably inside the distance as well. All right, let us keep moving on. We have a very good fight here, Weezy. We got Cody Brundage versus Rodolfo Vieira. We got Brundage, 28 years old, 6 foot with a 72-inch reach. Vieira, 33 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach. Brundage is 5 years younger, and it's Vieira with a 1-inch reach advantage. Brundage is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He had a decision loss to Nick Maximov in his debut. He had a submission win against Salcha Langambula in the next fight, and then a knockout win against Tresean Gore his last time out. Rodolfo Vieira is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, a submission win against Oscar Bijota, a submission win against Safirbeg Safarov, a submission loss to Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, a submission win against Dustin Stoltzfus, and then a decision loss to Chris Curtis in his last 5 fights. So most importantly, Weezy, you're going to be doing an interview with Cody Brundage Tuesday on the MMA Engine. Really looking forward to hearing what Cody has to say. Maybe he'll give some insight. But this is a fight where, I don't know, it's kind of one I'm struggling with because I did see Cody, taken down against Nick Maximov. And I think he took that fight on short notice, but Maximov was able to just take him down, get into some dominant positions. And then that kind of concerns me here against Rodolfo Vieira. And I guess it really all comes down to the game plan of Cody Brundage. Is he going to go out there like, Dustin Stoltzfus did? I thought Dustin Stoltzfus really let Vieira off the hook a little bit, not really pushing a pace, letting Vieira fight at his pace. Same thing with Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis, not really pushing a pace there. I kind of have a feeling Brundage is going to push the pace. I kind of feel like he's going to have to walk through a little bit of a fire here. He's going to have to survive a little bit of a storm here. But if he can survive that first round and push a pace while doing so, I feel like, Vieira, we've seen him tire out before. We've seen him tire out very bad before. And I feel like Brundage could potentially finish him round 2 or round 3. But it really all comes down to how Brundage approaches this fight. But I kind of see him pushing a pace here, making this fight exciting. And I think it's Vieira early or Brundage late, even though we have seen Vieira have more success lately into the other rounds. But Chris Curtis wasn't pushing a pace, and neither was Dustin Stoltzfus. Phenomenal fight here, Weezy. Really curious to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, it is a phenomenal fight. And Cody's still only 28 years old. So, this guy can still be, especially at this weight class, he's a prospect at 28. So, Rodolfo, 33, 1 inch of reach for Rodolfo here. But, yeah, I like that Cody's 5 years younger. Both of these guys have 10 pro fights. Both these guys got right around 75 minutes in the pro cage. But it's obviously been Cody with only 3.5 years as a pro and 10 fights. That's been a lot more active, fighting almost 3 times a year. While Rodolfo, it's less than twice a year. Rodolfo's got 1 more fight at the UFC level and about 22 more minutes in the UFC cage. Both of these guys, fantastic finishers. Rodolfo's finished all 3 UFC wins. Brundage has finished both of his UFC wins. And Brundage has finished 7 of 8 pro wins, while Vieira has finished 8 of 8 pro wins. So 15 of 16 pro wins for these guys inside the distance. And Rodolfo's been finished in 1 of 2 losses, and Cody Brundage has been knocked out in 1 of 2 losses. On the feet, I like Brundage's striking a little bit better. Vieira is not good in the striking. Brundage is more of a wrestler than he is a striker, but we saw him absolutely drop Tresean Gore in the last fight, and that was very impressive. And I think it was because we saw Cody push the pace early there. Brundage is a guy who can mix in that wrestling, and it's going to be interesting to see how that goes because we know what Rodolfo Vieira does well. He's obviously a guy that's going to use his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu World Championship in order to get the fight to the ground, and he's very, very heavy on top. It's like having a slab of marble on top of you. It's very difficult to move when you're underneath that man. And he's got a body like an action figure. So, you know that this dude is strong. He's got no fat, ton of muscle on the body. And when you're on top of him, his top pressure is just next level. And Cody has been taken down 5 times on 16 attempts, and he's been controlled for 45% of the 25 minutes that he's been in the cage. So that's like just under 12 minutes of control time on 5 takedowns. And also, he's gotten 3 of his 10 takedown attempts, and he's getting 23% control time in his own right. But it's not good to see that Cody's being out-controlled in control time positions, that he's losing about 60 to 65% of the control time positions that he's in, because a guy like Rodolfo Vieira is winning almost 90% of the control time positions that he's in. But the ones that he did lose to Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, he got finished. And I think what's most fascinating about this fight is it's easy for us to break down, oh yeah, if this stays on the feet, Cody's probably going to be good. If it gets to the ground and Rodolfo gets takedowns, Rodolfo's probably going to look really good. But the question is, right, we've seen Rodolfo Vieira. You can take one look at the guy's build and his body and understand that he's never going to be a cardio monster, especially if he has to push a wrestling heavy game plan from number one. So the question is, what's Cody going to do? What kind of pace is Cody going to push? Because if he can go out there confident in his submission defense and push a pace right from the beginning, dude, I think he's winning this fight, because Rodolfo Vieira cannot grapple for 3 rounds straight. That's why we've seen him actually voluntarily standing with guys like Stoltzfus and Curtis, guys that, he had grappling advantages against, because he knows if he just goes out there and shoots takedown after takedown after takedown, that he's going to gas out, especially if he gets them, because it's exhausting to go for them. So it's going to be interesting to see if Vieira wants to grapple right away. If he does look for offensive wrestling right away, or even if Cody does. Because if Cody puts him on his back, that could be a problem for Rodolfo. He's a big, thick, muscular dude. Those guys have a much harder time scrambling and getting up, rather than somebody like Cody, who could actually fight at 170 if he wanted to. He's probably going to be the better scrambler, the faster scrambler. So, yeah, fascinating matchup. I can't wait to talk about this with Cody and pick his brain a little bit about how he's approaching this fight and how he's training for it.
Yeah, I'll be tuning in that one for sure. Vieira, decent-sized favorite, opening at -145, currently -180. Brundage opening up +125, currently +155. Laying chalk on Rodolfo Vieira is probably never a good idea. I was kind of thinking about the fight doesn't go to decision, but the bookies were thinking the exact same thing. They have it at -400, so probably no bet on this fight at the moment.
Yeah, maybe because it's going to be +300 for fight goes, maybe Lou and I can just beg Brundage to do jack shit for 3 rounds. And then maybe he could get a split decision on the scorecards. And then most importantly, we could cash our fight goes tickets at +300. And that's really what I think everybody wants, including Cody.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe a split decision probably, which those would be crazy in this fight.
Dude, like 50-1.
Yeah, I mean, freaking nuts. But yeah, it's a phenomenal fight, but a fight I just don't feel like I'm gonna be going to the betting window on this one unless something sticks out throughout the week.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm really looking forward to talking about it. It's a fascinating stylistic matchup, and I could see this going a couple of different ways.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the thing with Rodolfo Vieira fights. Like, you can see the fight going so many different ways. And typically I don't like betting on those fights.
It's going to be a fun one to watch, man. I mean, I think everybody's going to be holding their breath while those guys are going at it, because, it could definitely end inside the distance.
Absolutely. All right. Moving on, we got André Fialho going against Muslim Salikhov. Fialho is 28 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. Salikhov, 38 years old, 5'11" with a 70-inch reach. It's going to be Fialho with a massive tail tape advantage, 10 years younger, 2-inch height advantage, and a 4-inch reach advantage. Fialho is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Michel Pereira, lost the fight by decision. He knocked out Miguel Baeza. He knocked out Cameron Van Camp, and he got his ass shaved by Jake Matthews. Very bad. Muslim Salikhov, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, a knockout win against Nordine Talib, a decision win against Loriana Staropoli, a decision win against Eliza Zaleski dos Santos, a decision win against Francisco Trinaldo, and a knockout loss to the Leech. So I'm probably the biggest Muslim Salikhov hater out there. I always pick against this guy. Don't really like his style. I hate his volume. I hate his cardio. And I bet against him in the Leech fight, and it finally paid off. Was able to cash a nice Leech ticket there. But I don't know. André Fialho, I mean, he has power, but really, that's about it. His striking defense scares me really bad. 48% striking defense on paper. He's willing to eat shots, and I actually really question his chin. I mean, he was getting wobbled by Cameron Van Camp, and then Jake Matthews, who's mostly known as a decision guy. He was hurting him bad the entire fight, and then just beat the crap. Eventually finished him. So Fialho is very dangerous, but so is Muslim Salikhov. The end of the guy's 38 years old. He doesn't really throw anything, but when he does throw, he hits very, very hard. I think both these guys hit hard, but I think the more defensively sound guy is Salikhov. So although I am a massive Salikhov hater, I think I'm going to pick him in this spot. But this is another spot where I do like violence. I think if Fialho wins, he could potentially knock out Salikhov here. And I think Fialho is so defensively irresponsible and chinny that Salikhov, if he can land one of those big kicks or a big shot, I think he can definitely knock out Fialho. So I'm looking at this from a violence standpoint. Don't really love a side here, but I will pick Salikhov for probably one of the very few times in the UFC where I'm ever going to pick this guy. But I hate what I see from Fialho in terms of the strike and defense and more so the chin as well. Just not a great look. But he's dangerous. He has power, and he could potentially win by knockout as well. So I think somebody's getting knocked out here, Weezy.
Yeah, agreed. And I think this is a fight where the stats are very valuable to us, right? Because it's a striker versus striker matchup. Fialho is 10 years younger, an inch taller, and he's got a 4-inch reach advantage. We love all of that. He's just as experienced as Salikhov. He's even got one more pro fight, but he's been a pro for 3 years less. So Fialho's been a lot more active than Salikhov. Now, Salikhov, more fights at the UFC level, 3 more UFC fights, about 45 more minutes in the UFC cage. And both these guys are good finishers. 87% for Fialho, 78% for Salikhov. And both guys are getting finished, as Fialho's been finishing 3 of 5 losses. Salikhov finished in all of his losses. But these striking numbers are important. Fialho, less accurate than Salikhov, right? Fialho throws a lot less volume than his opponents do, and Salikhov throws a lot less volume than his opponents do. But it's Fialho who's absorbing about almost 3 more significant strikes per minute than what he's landing, while Salikhov is landing about a half more significant strikes per minute than his opponents do. So Salikhov's more accurate and way more defensively responsible, right? So Fialho's striking defense at 48% is going to be troubling here because both of these dudes have power. Salikhov has landed 3 knockdowns in 7 fights, and Fialho has landed 2 in 4 fights. And both guys are getting knocked down once in their UFC careers. So, and if one guy's going to grapple, it's going to be Salikhov, but I think Fialho's conditioning is terrible. He fights through being tired, but we don't really see Salikhov getting that tired. I think that's a problem here. I think Salikhov's got the better conditioning. I think he's absolutely the more technical, sound striker. If you have Fialho and Salikhov and a striking coach says, I'm going to, have one of these guys display to my students the way to properly strike, I'm sending Fialho home. I want the king of Kung Fu, who's got a 66.5% striking defense and doesn't absorb 3 to land 1. I want a guy that limits the damage, is defensively responsible, and when he does throw, he throws with purpose and with power. And we can say all that about Salikhov. It's also Salikhov who's got the much better wins at the UFC level and has fought the more experienced competition overall. He's also more likely to win minutes in the grappling, as he's gotten 6 takedowns in 7 fights. But his fights are taking place in control time positions only about 12% of the time. And for Fialho, it's 5% of the time. So the statistics help because it's telling us this is going to be a striking match. It's also telling us that both of these guys have got good power, but just one of these guys is way more defensively responsible than the other. So, I've got to say that it's going to be Salikhov that's going to get the job done here, even though he's 10 years older.
Yep. It's a pick 'em. We got Salikhov, who opened up as a -180 favorite, and he's now -110. Fialho opened up a +155 dog. He's currently -110. We got a stubborn mix saying Muslim is washed. Oh no, not the washed again. Do you think he's a washed bum because he's the guy's good. I mean, he's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. I don't know if he's washed. I mean, the leash hits like a truck. So, I mean, maybe he gets knocked out here, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not running to the window to lay money on either of these guys, but I think violence is something I'm more interested in. And it actually opened up at like -150, but it got hit just a little bit. It's like not like -165 for that violence. So I think I would look at it from a violence perspective, if anything, maybe under 2.5 or something. But I know pick 'em sounds about right just because somebody's getting knocked out here. But there are a lot of things to like about Salikhov in this matchup outside of the tail of the tape.
Yeah, there are. I mean, like I say, it's just, who's going to be the minute winner on the feet? And is it the guy who lands, a half more significant strike per minute than his opponents? Or is it going to be the guy who gets outlanded by 3 significant strikes per minute and, kind of walks forward with his hands down and absorbs a ton of strikes? That's not going to work against Muslim Salikhov. The guy's an amazing counter striker. So if you just come in throwing bombs, I mean, he's going to be quicker to the target. And he's going to be a lot more accurate too. So, yeah, I mean, I like Muslim here, but am I going to be laying? Well, I mean, I guess it's about even money here, but I don't know if I can get my money to this fight. Maybe for violence.
Yep, potentially. Okay, we'll move on to this fight. We have Chase Sherman going against Waldo Cortes-Acosta. We got Chase Sherman, 32 years old, 6'4" with a 78-inch reach. Waldo Cortes-Acosta, 31 years old, 6'4" with a 71-inch reach. Acosta 1 year younger. Sherman 1-4 in his last 5 fights. A decision loss to André Arlovsky, a decision loss to Parker Porter, a submission loss to Jake Collier, a submission loss to Alexander Romanov, and then a knockout win against Jared Vanderaa. As far as Waldo Cortes-Acosta, he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut after a knockout win on the Contender Series and won a decision against Jared Vanderaa. Yeah, I'm not betting on this fight, but I have a feeling Chase Sherman's going to be a very popular dog this week. I feel like people are going to go right back to the well in terms of fading Waldo Cortes-Acosta. I know Jared Vanderaa was a very popular dog a couple weeks ago, and it's kind of surprising me he's stepping in because Jared Vanderaa did a lot of damage on those legs. It's not really something he's had to worry about here. Chase Sherman's just going to come forward, eat some punches with his face, and I don't know. I really could care less about this fight, to be honest. I would never bet this fight in my life, especially taking a look at the line. I don't really feel comfortable laying like -180 on Waldo here. But do I really want to bet Chase Sherman? No, I don't. I don't want to do that. I would never do that. So I'm not betting this fight. I don't know if I'll even be watching this fight. And, typically, throughout the night, I usually like to go and make dinner during one of these fights. I like to make a nice chicken dinner. And this might be the fight where I just completely don't watch because I just don't have a ton of interest in it, to be honest. So, Weezy, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts is just take the plus money here. Just take the plus money. These are 2 heavyweights with very similar skill sets. Waldo Cortes-Acosta, very heavy on that front leg as a boxer, and Chase Sherman kicks the shit out of dude's legs, something that Vanderaa had a ton of success with. But Sherman's nicer with his hands than Vanderaa is. I mean, we found that out when they fought. So, and Chase is more experienced. He's fought the better brand of competition. He's faced good grapplers too. So it's not like we can expect Waldo to go out there and do anything that, Romanov hasn't done to him or Parker Porter hasn't done to him already. So, yeah, I think a plus 150 on Chase Sherman is not a bad look at all. I think these guys are very well matched. Waldo Cortes-Acosta with a super fast turnaround of less than 1 month for this fight after taking as much damage to his lead leg as he did, knowing that Chase Sherman's going to go right back to that and that Chase Sherman's got faster hands and is more accurate than Jared Vanderaa. So, yeah, I actually like the Chase Sherman side simply because he's plus 150 here. I think it's a very well-matched fight. I think you flip a coin. Maybe I like Cortes-Acosta a little bit better on the feet, but I wouldn't be willing to lay minus 180 on him here. No chance in hell, dude. Not if he's going to give Chase the fight that he wants, and Chase wants to stand and bang. You know how many takedowns Chase attempted? 0. You know how many he's gotten? 0. 3.38% control time. If you stand in front of Chase Sherman and box with him, you're giving him exactly the fight that he wants. Get the plus money number if both guys are getting the fight that they want. That would have happened yesterday with Trizano versus Choi. I said that the reason I didn't get to a Choi bet was because striker versus striker matchups, you go with the plus money. This is a striker versus striker matchup. One of the guys has fought better competition and is way more experienced and is more rested. And he had a better performance against Vieira. They're both have the most recent opponent is Vieira, and Chase Sherman outperformed Waldo Cortes-Acosta and is coming off a longer break. So yeah, I'm going with Chase Sherman here.
Yeah, I mean, agreed, but I don't know if I can bet this fight. But yeah, it's kind of wild. Acosta minus 185, Chase Sherman plus 160. The only problem would be that you'd have to bet on Chase Sherman. It's just a terrifying thing. But yeah, the line does seem pretty wide here.
It feels that way, but do you want to get your money near an Acosta Sherman fight? I mean, you get what you deserve. At least if you bet it, you'll have an easier time at night crying yourself to sleep knowing that you were on the plus money side.
Yeah, I mean, I would not lay chalk on this fight. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Chase Sherman, if anything, probably dog or pass there. He was plus 170 at one point. Only one book has the lines out, so curious to see where the line goes throughout the week. I'd be kind of shocked if it got any wider. I already see a ton of love for Sherman, and it makes sense. But yeah, I'm not probably betting on this fight. We can move on, though, to the next fight. We have, I believe this is the co-main event. Yes, we have Ion Cuțelaba going against Kennedy and Nzechukwu. We got Cuțelaba, 28 years old, 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. Kennedy, 30 years old, 6'5" with an 83-inch reach. Cuțelaba, he is 2 years younger, and it's going to be Kennedy with a tape advantage with a 4-inch height advantage and a massive 8-inch reach advantage. Cuțelaba, 1-3-1 draw in his last 5 fights, had a knockout loss to Magomed Ankalaev, a draw against Dustin Jacoby, a decision win against Devin Clark, a submission loss to Ryan Spann, and then a submission loss to Johnny Walker. Kennedy and Nzechukwu, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, a knockout win against Carlos Ulberg, a knockout win against Danilo Marquez, a knockout loss to Dong Jung, a decision loss to Nikolai Negumereanu, and a knockout win against Carl Roberson. I guess one thing that stuck out to me initially was the fact that Kennedy is a favorite here, and he's typically a guy I don't want to bet as a favorite because he's kind of known for getting his ass whooped a little bit and kind of coming back, making a comeback, and typically don't want to lay chalk on that. And then I kind of looked through his record there, and in both fights where he is the favorite, he lost. And there's been 3 fights, and he was So let me see. So there was 2 fights where he was a favorite, right? And he lost in both those fights. He was a favorite against Nikolai Negumereanu around minus 130. He lost that fight, and he was a favorite against Paul Craig, and then he lost that fight as well. And then the fights where he was the dog, he is 4-1 in those fights. Like I said, a guy I typically want to bet as a underdog here. This is going to be a car crash. I don't like the fact that Kennedy starts slow. You don't really want to start slow against Cuțelaba, but I mean, if he's able to survive early on, he can definitely take over. That's kind of what he's known for. Should be a fun fight, but laying chalk on Kennedy here is not something I'm really interested in. And this is another fight where I was kind of leaning violence, but the bookies are all over it and much, much more. Like, the fight doesn't get the decision. I saw is minus 420. Like, come on. So a fight I probably won't have a bet on here, more than likely. Should be a fun fight, though.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I always think I'm intrigued by Kennedy and Nzechukwu. I'm intrigued by fighters that have the unique combination of skill sets. And with Nzechukwu, you have that very unique measurables, right? He's got a tiny ass head, which I think is the only reason that he makes 205 pounds. Because how the fuck does a 6'5" dude with an 83-inch reach and the muscle that Kennedy's got on his frame, how the hell does he make 206 pounds? It blows me away. But yeah, 8-inch reach advantage, 4-inch height advantage here for Kennedy. It's Ion, who's much more experienced, though, 13 more fights, but only 15 more minutes in the pro cage. His average fight time, Cuțelaba, as a pro, is 5.17 minutes, while it's 9.35 for Kennedy. And Cuțelaba also has the UFC experience advantage with a couple more minutes in the cage, 4 more UFC level fights. Both of these guys are great finishers. 60% at the UFC level for Cuțelaba, 67% for Nzechukwu, and 88% finish rate for Cuțelaba in his pro wins and 70% for Nzechukwu. And yeah, I mean, these guys are getting finished too, as Kennedy's been finishing 2 of 3 losses, and 86% of Cuțelaba's UFC losses, so 6 of 7 losses at the UFC level inside the distance. When it's at striking range, I think Nzechukwu is actually going to be better, but it's going to be Cuțelaba who's a lot more front-loaded. I think what's most intriguing stylistically about this fight, Brady, is the fact that Cuțelaba is very front-loaded, and Nzechukwu's got incredible conditioning and very good durability outside of that Da Un Jung fight. He's been very durable here too. So, and Cuțelaba's a guy who really does his best work when he's able to out-wrestle his opponents, right? 31 of 49 on takedown attempts, 63.27% takedown accuracy, 4.68 takedowns per 15 minutes, and 24% control time. But he's showing 76% takedown defense, and he's been controlled for 15%. But the interesting numbers are over on the Nzechukwu side, right? Nzechukwu gets as much control time as his opponents do. But here's the problem. Nzechukwu has attempted 8 takedowns, and Nzechukwu's opponents have attempted 53, right? So how the hell is Kennedy Nzechukwu not being out-controlled? Well, I've got a theory, and it's because he's got freakish size, athletic ability, and strength for the division. So the way I see this fight happening is either Cuțelaba goes out there and shaves this dude's ass in the first round, or you live bet Kennedy Nzechukwu after round 1 once Cuțelaba gasses out from all the grappling. And if that happens, Kennedy's really going to take over as this fight goes on. So when you look at the strength of schedule, same ratio, but Cuțelaba definitely fighting the more experienced competition. But the wins are actually kind of close because Cuțelaba's got a 1 ratio in his wins. But for Kennedy, it's 1.38. He's just facing the less experienced competition. So I think it's a very, very interesting stylistic matchup. So I'm interested to see how this one shakes out.
Yeah, and I think a live bet is probably a solid look because Kennedy's going to really have to survive here. Cuțelaba is super dangerous in the first round. So yeah, Kennedy is a favorite. Like I mentioned, he opened up -110. Pick'em currently -170. Cuțelaba opened up -110. Pick'em currently +145. And like I said, I like violence here, but I don't like it at -420. I can't believe they're doing that to us, but it is what it is.
Yeah, what's interesting is the one thing that we hadn't seen Kennedy do was wrestle at all at the UFC level. But now, the Roberson fight, he comes out, he puts on his singlet, and he looks like he's been a wrestler the whole time. This guy Kennedy is just a gigantic ball of potential. And if he ever puts it all together, he's going to be absolutely terrifying because he can distance strike and manage distance well. He's got a gas tank to go 5 rounds, and he can push a pace. And if he's mixing in wrestling now, in addition to touch from a distance with the way that he's been, able to keep fights at range, he's a very dangerous opponent here. But Cuțelaba is trouble for anybody in the first half of a fight. And if he can survive that, then I think he wins. But yeah, I think this fight finishes inside the distance, but the bookies aren't giving us opportunity to really profit from it.
Yep, for sure. I cannot wait for this fight. That should be a fun co-main event. All right, we're about to get into the main event. Before we do so, if you guys can please like the video, also subscribe to the channel. I do want to say thank you to everybody hanging out in the chat and watching. It does mean a lot here, but we have the main event here. We have Derrick Lewis going against Sergey Spivak. Phenomenal fight. Derrick Lewis, 37 years old, 6'3" with a 79-inch reach. Sergey Spivak, 27 years old, 6'3" with a 78-inch reach. Spivak, 10 years younger. Derrick Lewis with a 1-inch reach advantage. Derrick Lewis, 2-3 in his last 5 fights. A knockout win against Curtis Blades. A knockout loss to Cyril Gane. A knockout win against Christakis. A knockout loss to Taito Ivasa and Sergey Pavlovich. As far as Spivak, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. A knockout win against Jared Vandera. A decision win against Alexei Oleinik. A knockout loss to Tom Aspinall. A knockout win against Greg Hardy. And a knockout win against Augusto Sakai. Yeah, Derrick Lewis fights are just so tough to call. It's hard to get a read on this guy's fights. Like, he was I believe he was a dog against Chris Dawkins. Dawkins went out there, or he went out there and knocked out Dawkins. He was a massive dog against Curtis Blades. I thought that was a phenomenal matchup for Curtis Blades. I thought Blades would be able to wrestle him, and it just wasn't the case. Derrick Lewis knocked him out. Blades really struggled to get on the inside and take him down. And I feel like it's a phenomenal matchup for Spivak here, but Derrick Lewis can knock out anybody in the division, and that's kind of the scary thing here. But yeah, Spivak should be able to get takedowns literally whenever he wants. Derrick Lewis, I don't think he has a good ground game. Doesn't use much technique to get up. He just kind of gets up, and Spivak's a guy that can go for a ton of takedowns and not really get tired. Very good wrestler, 63% takedown accuracy, very active with the ground and pound as well. But when this is at range, I mean, Lewis could potentially knock out Spivak at any point. And that's kind of the scary thing, especially when we're talking laying a lot of chalk on Spivak in this matchup. But yeah, I mean, it's a winnable matchup for Spivak. I do heavily favor him, but Derrick Lewis, his power just scares me away from even thinking about betting on Spivak here. I like violence a lot, but it's like minus 500 and something. So yeah, probably a fight that I will not be betting, but I gotta pick Spivak. But Derrick Lewis is definitely allowed to knock out Spivak. Spivak's been knocked out before in the first round by Tom Aspinall and then also by Walt Harris. And Lewis's power carries the entire time. It's a 5-round fight. And if Spivak does slow down and gas out, he did gas out a little bit in that Oleinik fight. Could be some problems there, but stylistically, Spivak should win this fight. But there's a lot of times where I say stylistically Derrick Lewis should get beat, and then he goes out there and knocks him out. So yeah, I can't really touch this fight. No strong lean for me one way or another, but I'm going to pick Spivak. I think he has the path to victory here. Weezy, how do you feel about this main event?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of just comes down to one thing, Brady. Can Spivak safely close the distance to get into the clinch here? Because once this dude is in the clinch, he just tosses around 280-pound men like it's absolutely nothing. As somebody that grew up doing judo, dude, Spivak is so fun to watch. The throws that this guy gets. Tuivasa hadn't been thrown around like that probably since he was a baby. Spivak took him down 8 times on 8 attempts and absolutely bodied him every time he took him down. And even though Tuivasa kept getting back up, he just kept getting thrown right back down, man. So Spivak's just got to be able to safely close that distance to get his arms around Derrick Lewis. Once he does that, Lewis is going for a ride, and Spivak's top control and ground and pound is next level. And with Lewis, you've got a guy who's got 17 UFC wins and 13 UFC knockouts. So there's really no, whatever the Derrick Lewis money line is, just bet him by KO, because that's how he wins the fight. So if you're getting plus money on the Lewis side, just bet him by KO. And then Spivak can get a submission or a knockout, but Derrick Lewis has been finished in every single one of his 8 UFC losses. So, yeah, I think that whatever way you're leaning here, just, you can either bet Lewis by KO or you could bet Spivak inside the distance. You could parlay up the fight doesn't go to decision. I could see Derrick Lewis quitting on the stool after round 3. You know what I'm saying? Just be like, fuck this, man. The last time that he was in a 5-round fight, he goes, the first thing he said when they handed him the mic, he goes, no more of this 5-round shit. Because he's not a 5-round fighter, dude. The guy's 265 pounds. He cuts weight to make 265, and he throws 5 significant strike attempts per minute. That's 1 every 12 seconds. You want to talk about a guy who saves his energy? I mean, he looks like he's waiting in line at the DMV when he's in there most of the time. He's just waiting for you to make one mistake so we can land that canned ham on your face and put you into the shadow realm. So I can't wait for this fight. I think it's probably going to be Nosferatu here by blood draw. I think he's just going to take him down, bite him on the neck, and then just, get all the energy and blood out of Derrick Lewis on the ground. But, man, these are 2 terrifying individuals. One has got some of the most terrifying hands and power in the history of the sport, and the other one is just terrifying looking and looks like he's an actual Transylvanian vampire that they let go in there and fight, If Sergey Spivak was undead, I would be completely not surprised.
I agree. He's one interesting looking individual for sure, but he's a favorite. He opened up minus 105. That's interesting. He's now minus 190, Sergey Spivak. Lewis opened up minus 115, currently plus 165. I mean, it's one of those things where I think it probably should be line closer just because Derrick Lewis, he has so much power and the blade. I can't get the Blades fight out of my head, but I'm gonna pick Spivak to win this fight. And then the fight doesn't go to decision on 5 times right now is -530, so they are definitely all over the violence.
And just one stylistic thing that I want to highlight is that Spivak gets judo and upper body takedowns. So he's not going to be shooting in for a single leg like Blades did when he got his head punted, right? Because he had to duck his head to get that takedown attempt, because Blades is a folk wrestler, a freestyle wrestler. He's shooting in on single and double legs. Spivak can get in on your upper body and get those takedowns. So he's not going to have to duck in and worry about, Travis Brown elbows and that kind of shit. I think he's going to be doing it from the body lock, which is where he'll get Derrick Lewis moving one way, and then he'll trip him going the other, and that's how he'll get his takedowns. Stylistically, that makes me like Spivak's wrestling more than I liked Blades' wrestling, which is interesting to say.
Yeah, we are in the small cage, so I think closing the distance will be a little bit easier. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, Weezy, we did it. We went through all 13 fights on this card. It is definitely not UFC 281, but it's going to be fun. We're back in the small cage here. Lots of violent fighters, lots of violent fights. And yeah, it should be a good one. So Weezy, let the people know where they can find you and what you have going on throughout the week this week. And especially talk about that interview Tuesday with Cody Brundage. I cannot wait for that.
Yeah, MMA Engine YouTube channel. I believe we're going live at 5 o'clock Central Time, 6 o'clock Eastern for that Cody Brundage interview. We're going to pick his brain. We're going to go over. I always take him through the stats and tell him, hey, here's what the cappers are looking at, and here's where your statistical strengths and weaknesses are. Can you shape a game plan to make Rodolfo uncomfortable and put yourself in positions where you can succeed? So it's always interesting to see how fighters answer those questions. You can find me on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy. You can find me on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. I'll be going live on Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Central Time, to do my full card breakdown after the Cody Brundage interview earlier in the day. And let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 65 so that we have something the following week to be thankful for your Uncle Weezy's favorite holiday of the year, Thanksgiving.
Yep, and we got to finish the year strong. Four weeks left. We have this week, week off, and then 3 cards to end the year. 3 really good cards. UFC Orlando. I'm thinking about maybe going to that one, and then UFC 282, which is gonna be phenomenal. So yeah, 4 good cards to end the year. Hopefully finish it strong here. That's always the goal. But yeah, guys, you can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the numbers. YouTube, DFS by the numbers. Potentially get the prediction video out tomorrow. And then, of course, live streams every Friday and Saturday as well. And then me and Weezy will be going live tomorrow for probability, potentially like 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, something like that, before the Die Hard MMA podcast. But rest in peace, Anthony Rumble Johnson. I see it in the chat, Adam. I agree. Sad situation there. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, and we will talk to you guys very soon.